And Joan and Phil really started the same day in our congressional office, and I'm going to really pick up.
Good afternoon. It's March 6th. We're here with the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee. We have a really great conversation today that I'm really excited about, a briefing on homeownership, equity, and affordability in Montgomery County. In many ways, this builds off of the state of rental housing affordability that we had, a deep dive back at the end of January, on January 30th, on where the state of rental housing is in Montgomery County and the affordability challenges that we face in that arena. Today is really focused on homeownership, understanding that homeownership has historically been a primary, if not the primary path to building generational wealth, a key component of all of the other issues that we deal with and that we address when it comes to racial equity, among other issues. And so we wanted to have a specific conversation on homeownership, both to assess the broader macroeconomic situation in homeownership in Montgomery County, to talk about the different partners that we have and organizations that we have that are doing some significant work in this space, and then also to talk about some of the tools that we have at our disposal, recognizing that historically county government, state government has primarily focused on rental housing support, but we do have certain areas where we support homeownership. We've at this previous iteration of this committee have really emphasized that. Last year we added additional funding, as many will recall, to the first-time home buyer program, which we'll talk about a bit today as well, and we're looking for more opportunities to do more in this space. We know that there's been a broader interest in that. The county executive has talked about that as well, and so we wanted to be able to do a real in-depth dive and conversation into that as well. We have a number of panels that we have today. We will start with our first panel. We have our planning staff who have joined us, and so why don't we turn to them first, and then following the planning staff, Latoya Thomas, I think, is going to be joining us virtually, and she is with the Housing Indicator Tool Policy Director of HAND. And I want to thank Councilmember Jawando and his office for recommending that they participate in this conversation, and they provide this briefing as well. Our staff has participated in this, but their office thought, and we certainly agree, that having this as part of the broader public conversation was important as well, for a better understanding on these issues and how we, I don't want to say rank, but how we look vis-a-vis the region and broader indicators as well. So with that, why don't we turn it over to Ms. Scavone and Mr. Sartori with planning, and we can move forward with the conversation.
Great, thank you. For the record, I'm Jason Sartori, Chief of the Countywide Planning and Policy Division at the Planning Department. And I'd like to just take a quick moment to thank Chair Friedson and Council Members Jawando and Fani Gonzalez for inviting us to participate in this homeownership forum today. You know, we really do pride ourselves in all the work that we do at the Planning Department on our data-driven efforts, most especially when it comes to policy work. You've come to know us and people like Ms. Scavone here for being experts on gathering, maintaining, and analyzing data. But I want to also thank you for not forgetting our policy expertise as well, whether it's transportation, land use, environment, housing, zoning, economic development. You know, our staff are experts on policy development and analysis, and this includes my colleague here, Ms. Scavone. She's not just a housing data expert, but a housing policy expert who's well versed in the history of the policy of housing policy in Montgomery County, as well as best practices being implemented across the country. And so I encourage you to continue to incorporate us in your policy development efforts, from initial conception through adoption into implementation. We have experts in-house to help you make good policy for Montgomery County, and we stand ready to work with you on that. And with that, I will turn the mic over to Ms. Scavone, who will dive into some of the data that we think will set the stage for making good policy in Montgomery County and coming from this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Sartori. Good afternoon. For the record, Lisa Scavone, Housing Planner with the Planning Department. So we'll dive right in and talk about home ownership rate. So Montgomery County has a home ownership rate of about 65%. But as you can imagine, these rates, they vary by the age of the householder. there are a lot of factors that influence home ownership, notably family formation, prime earning years, retirement, etc. So it's not surprising that this home ownership rate varies by age. And you can see, but I do want to highlight with this slide that we have, and this will be a theme that we'll come back to again and again in this presentation, the declining home ownership rate. And that declining home ownership rate is most acute for households under 35. So since 1990, there's been a 16 percentage point decline in home ownership rate for householders under 35, and a 13% decline in home ownership from the 35 to 45 age cohort. The only age cohort that we're seeing an increase in home ownership is the 75 and plus age cohort, and that's primarily representing this idea that they want to age in place. They were postponing the transition from owner-occupied housing to assisted rental living or age-restricted rental housing. Next slide. And so to put a finer point on that, the home ownership rate by age, we're also declining home ownership on net for households under 55. So the county is only adding new owner households on net for householders over 55. We've added about 29,000 owner households for above 55, and we've lost about 23,000 for under 55. Next slide. So we just talked about how 65% of all county households are owner households, but disparities do exist by race and ethnicity. So for both white alone householders and Asian householders, they have home ownership rates that are above that county home ownership rate of 65%. But when we look at African American households or Hispanic or Latino households, we not only see a home ownership rate that's lower than the county average, but a declining home ownership rate. And this is really important, and Councilmember Friedson talked about the implications of this. Home ownership is the primary tool for wealth building in this country. And when households of color are denied that opportunity, they are denied what is a gateway to for intergenerational wealth building. And I looked up some wealth data, and it's notoriously hard to get, but in 2019, the Federal Reserve Board's The Survey of Consumer Finances noted that the typical median white family, they own about $184,000 in wealth. The typical black family, $23,000. And a typical Hispanic family, $38,000. And for the last 30 years, that's pretty much been unchanged for African American households. For Hispanic households, it's gotten a little bit better, but that gap is still really wide. Next slide. So the median income for owner households is about $150,000, which is about $80,000 more than the median income for renter households and about $30,000 more than the county's median income. But since 2010, the percentage of households that are owners and making under 150% has declined, but increased for households making over $150,000 a year. You can see 1 out of every 2 owners makes $150,000, and we are only adding new owner households that make over over $150,000. So I'm going to walk you through the slide because it's a lot of dashed lines and graphs, and I know it can be a little confusing. But this shows the maximum affordable sale price by AMI. The blue bars correspond to what the sales price is affordable to at that AMI band. For example, at 100% AMI, after taking assumptions based on down payment, interest, insurance, and taxes, we calculated that a household at 100% AMI, which is about $129,000 for a family of 4 in 2021, they would be able to afford a max sales price of about $460,000. Now, what those dashed colored bars correspond to is the actual median income, the actual median sold price for that area. So if you look at the yellow line, in Montgomery County, the median sold price is $555,000 in 2022. And what that means is it corresponds to a household would have to be earning about 120% of area median income to be able to afford the average home in the median home in Silver Spring. And if you look at the red bar all the way at the top, you see that to afford the median home in Bethesda, you'd have to be earning well over 200% area median income. But this also means that, there's also pockets of affordability in Montgomery County. If you look at that purple line, which is the Germantown median sold price, you can see that you need to be earning about 80% of area median income to be able to afford the median home in Germantown. But what this also means is that if a household is earning 100% of area median income, they could not afford the median home in Montgomery County. Next slide. Now moving on from median to average sold price. As a reminder, the median is the middle value where half the values fall above and half fall below, and the average is the total number of sum total of all the sales divided by the number of sales. So it can be influenced by extreme values, and there's certainly a lot of extreme home sales price in Montgomery County. And the attached sales price is shown in blue, and the average detached sold price is the average detached price is shown in orange. As you can see, both attached and detached, they grew at similar rates until about 2020 and the end of 2019, where detached prices grew at a much faster rate. Since 2019, the average detached unit sold price has increased by 32%, or 8% a year, compared to 18% or 5% for attached units. And even after we adjust that for inflation, it's about 4% a year for detached home and about 2.5% for attached units. And I like this graph because it also shows like the impact that size has on affordability. So we just talked about how a family at 100% area median income couldn't afford the median home, but they could afford an attached home. And so I think it's really important that attached homes are providing an opportunity for home ownership in Montgomery County. Next slide. So looking at the various submarkets in the county, you see that there's a lot of variation throughout the county, especially for detached homes. And you can go from Wheaton, where you can get a detached home for $575,000, all the way up to Bethesda, where it's $1.6 million. So you have a variation of about over $1 million throughout the county. It also shows that there is variation with the attached units, but not as much as variation for as detached units. But I think, again, highlighting that point, this impact of size that has on affordability. And then looking at other jurisdictions, we looked at median sales price for all housing types by jurisdiction. Montgomery County has the highest median sold price in Maryland, but about $100,000 less than some of our regional neighbors in Arlington, Fairfax, and Washington, D.C. Next slide. So this graph shows the average sales price to original listing ratio. The sale to list ratio is the final sale price, which that's what the buyer pays for the home, divided by the last list price, and that's expressed as a percentage. So if you have over 100%, this home is going for above asking, and if it's below 100%, it's going for below asking. And I think this is really fascinating, showing in the last 2 years, on average, homes are selling for above asking. Next slide. And you couple that with this slide that's showing that average days on market for 2021 and 2022 is 18 days, and 60% of all units sold in the county sold in less than 10 days. This is really indicative of a supply-constrained market and the need to build more housing. It's not healthy for your market for 60% of your units to sell in less than 10 days. And then finally, I'll end with the financing of sold units. Not surprisingly, conventional loans are the most common in Montgomery County as well as nationwide. And when I originally researched this slide, what I was anticipating on finding was a huge increase in all cash offers. And you find that to an extent. In 2022, you had your highest record with 19% cash buyers. But I think the important point to take away from here is just the absolute decline in FHA loans. FHA loans are the favored loan of first-time home buyers, of people with lower credit, of less down payment, and they're not being competitive in this market. They're not being able to enter this market. And so you couple the decline in FHA loans with the low days on market, with the over asking, and you have what I think is really indicative of a supply-constrained market that favors sellers, but really is denying an opportunity for home ownership for a lot of people in this county. So thank you.
Appreciate that. I just had two quick questions, then we'll turn it over to Han, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague, and then we'll turn it over to Han. Do you have a slide that you first showed the total area median income, and then you showed attached and detached? Do we have data on the type of unit between attached and detached, because the income for a family of 4, I assume that the median sales price was for all units, which would include a studio and a 1-bedroom. Is that accurate?
Yes. So attached structures, there are townhouses and cooperatives or condos, and the detached is like, you know, a detached home. And then median includes all of the homes sold. And we do have a slide that just shows median. It's in the appendix to the slide deck, if that's what you're interested in.
Yeah, I guess the question was about the median income and the median sales price, not necessarily aligning it. The gap is even bigger than that slide suggests, I would imagine, because the median income was for a family of 4, but the units include units that the family of 4 would not likely be able to live in.
That's a really great point. I think I'd imagine there's a similar gap for, you know, households of 3, households of 1, but you're right. Sometimes the supply does not align with the area median income for a family of 4.
Appreciate that. I appreciate that. I just want to note also, we were hoping to have a third panelist for this panel to talk about specifically and exclusively on the racial equity aspects of this. Unfortunately, our multiple attempts, we're not able to have somebody available at this time, and so I appreciate you stepping in and including significant data on those issues as well, because obviously we can't have this conversation about equity and home ownership unless we're having it, you know, disaggregated by race. And so I appreciate you doing that. With that, I'll turn to my colleague, Councilmember Joanda.
Thank you, and I appreciate Mr. Sartori's praise of Ms. Scavone and the great team that you have at planning, and we will continue to avail ourselves of your expertise, as I did earlier this week. Shout out to Councilmember Balcom, who's not here, who would be saying Germantown is #1. You know, there's a reason Germantown's the most diverse city in the nation. It's because it's most affordable in this area. And obviously that's changing and has to be understood in its context, but I really appreciated you showing what have followed historic trends of where you can people follow affordability in first-time home buyers and immigrant communities, communities of color, and I think that has borne out in Germantown. And also, just to put a fine point on 100% AMI, we do a lot of work trying to get AMI down, but it's almost it's not even the proper context anymore, because it's particularly for home ownership, but also for renting. I mean, you know, because, you know, as you know, rents can approach in certain areas more or as much as a mortgage would be if you could qualify. And so you really have it on both ends, that you can earn what the average person earns here and not afford to live. Yeah, were you going to say something?
I was turning off the microphone.
Oh, okay, okay. And the last thing I'll say, and if you have a response, hopefully you have a response. The FHA is such an important point. That was our first. I had FHA loans, and as first-time home buyer, and that's a big deal. Is there any? Can you direct us to some? I'm assuming that's a national trend, but do you have any more background into why that has gone down so low to 6%?
If I had to hypothesize, I think it has to do with the increasing sales price in Montgomery County. You know, median sold prices, increasing prices for both attached and detached. So that barrier to entry is just higher now than it was in previous years.
Just the amount of loan that you can get, or
right. I think honestly, I think that the average FHA loan borrower is probably not. They're not going to be as competitive as a conventional loan, especially when it's taking 18 days to sell.
Timing issue too
on the market. So I think it's just the high barrier to entry to homeownership in Montgomery County is increasing.
Yeah, and it's an important point. You know, it's a reminder that we have a lot of work to do at every level with regard to how we deal with the cost of housing here. So I'll pause there. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. I was going to ask about the timing issue with FHA loans, and perhaps when we have another presenter later, they can talk a little bit about the different types of loans from a transactional basis. And I think that would be interesting, because I would imagine that cash is the fastest, right? You don't have to wait for any approvals, or the money is available as soon as the buyer wants it. With a conventional loan, you have a bank involved. That presents probably some level of delay. And then I would imagine an FHA loan, because there's an additional layer of approval and an additional process that you have to go through to underwrite, that may slow it down. And in a market that has dropped to 18, was that right? 18 days on the market, and closings that are probably happening faster because it is so tilted towards the seller, as opposed to more evenly mixed between the seller and the buyer, that could have an impact as well, which we can't address at the local level, but it's something for us to better understand. But I really appreciate this data as well, and I think I agree wholeheartedly, and one of the purposes of this conversation was to talk about the supply issue, not just in the context of rental housing, but in the context of all housing, and to speak to the challenges that we face in the county, not just at deeply affordable levels and affordable levels, but really at all levels. We don't have a housing market that meets the needs of our residents at virtually every single level, which is a staggering challenge that we face in the rental market, and a staggering challenge that we face in the home ownership market as well. Councilmember Jordan.
And you might have saw me lose my train of thought there for a second, but what I was going to say, and if you all have to can respond, great, but maybe it'd be later panels. I also want to point out we have data that's recently come out in the last 6 months or so around denials of more approvals for mortgages, whereas for African Americans, for example, it's 18%, it's double the normal denial rate, nearing 20%. In all 50 metropolitan areas, ours included. Obviously, housing discriminations and lender discrimination is still a thing, but it has a big impact. And I think we need to think about, when we're thinking about solutions, these are folks that have similar levels of qualifications as others, but then are denied. And what are we doing, obviously, with our Office of Human Rights, its capacity, just studying that issue, understanding it more, other types of programs to make sure we're attacking it from that angle as well.
That's a really good point. And right before I left here, the National Center for Smart Growth came out with some research that they've done for Maryland's DHCD on this topic. So I think we have some local research on that topic. I didn't get to finish the article, but I can send it along, because it's Maryland specific, and it speaks to a lot about the appraisals and a lot of the issues that you were talking about.
Right, and the appraisals as well. Yeah, I'd love to. I think we need to just add that into this discussion. Thank you.
Absolutely, we can add that to the list of follow-ups for council staff. I appreciate those comments. With that, can we turn it over to our virtual guest here? And I think we're waiting for LaToya Thomas, who has joined us. Hello, welcome, and thank you for being here. We really appreciate you joining us. And with that, we will turn it over to you to share with us the hand tool and to describe what it does and what you've learned and what you can share with us.
Share my screen.
We've got your screen shared, and hopefully we have your audio worked out. Yes. A little low.
I can hear you. Still too. Can you hear me now?
A little bit better. Can we do one more adjustment?
A little bit better?
Perfect.
Gotcha.
Is that better?
Yep, perfect.
Awesome. Okay, great. I'm just going to adjust a couple of windows on my side, so bear with me 1 second. All right, everyone can see my screen. Excellent. All right, so again, good afternoon. My name is LaToya Thomas, principal and founder of Brick and Story. My firm has been consulting with HAND, the Housing Association of Nonprofit Developers, for now going on 3 years on the Housing Indicator tool. Today's presentation is looking at regional home ownership trends, since I know this panel is focused on home ownership. I'll give a little bit of background on the tool. Also, particularly given that you have interest in talking about racial equity and how it ties into home ownership, I'll be able to touch on some of those points as well throughout this presentation, because the HIT has actually been rooted in racial equity since its inception. So let me go ahead and get started. So just for some background around the HIT, so the Housing Indicator tool is a digital dashboard that was really birthed from this regional commitment that was established by the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments in 2019. So at that time, what first happened was the Urban Institute, who happens to be our data partner on the Housing Indicator tool, released a report that projected a need for approximately 374,000 net new housing units, and these will be rental housing units, by 2030. And of that, about 80% of those should be affordable to middle income households and below. COG reviewed that report and then established their own set of forecasts, basically dividing that number across the entire COG region. And so then became the question of how does the region actually hit this target? And this is really where the work of HAND comes in. So for those of you who are not familiar, HAND is the Housing Association of Nonprofit Developers. It's a membership association that reaches the DMV region as well as the Baltimore area and Richmond. It is comprised of everyone from nonprofit and for-profit developers to architects, engineers, builders, bankers, lenders, everyone who makes up the affordable housing space. Its primary way of working is around providing trainings. It's really well known for the various trainings that it provides to the industry. But in recent years, it's also taken a much bigger role towards advocacy, particularly advocacy around housing policy, and particularly advocacy around making that link between racial equity and the need for housing, both at the rental and homeownership scale. These are just some snapshots from the tool. So the Housing Indicator tool was launched about 2 years ago. It's a digital dashboard that tracks on an annual basis how we are doing towards the production goals of meeting that 374,000 net new unit number. With the Housing Indicator tool, in addition to looking at production data for rental housing on an annual basis, we also look at all the other policy issues that go into talking about housing affordability. So we talk about preservation, we talk about homeownership, we talk about racial wealth gap, we talk about racial equity. We also talk about a lot of the systemic policies, laws, and other practices that have really resulted in the affordability gaps that we see today. Those are things that many of us are familiar with historically, whether that's redlining, racial covenants, but also things that we still see happening today. There was a reference around credit approvals and the difference between Black households versus white households. We know that there are still articles today around appraisals and valuations of homes, how Black households and other households of color, how their homes might get valued differently, much less than white households. So we try to bring all of those other policy issues into the conversation as we look at the Housing Indicator tool and as we look at this data on an annual basis. The tool is digital, it's an accountability tool. We work very closely with the housing directors in each jurisdiction to cull this data each year. And yes, Montgomery County has participated, and thank you for your data. We will actually be launching the 3.0 version of this tool in early April. We also talk about what makes a good housing toolkit. And so that's really looking at what are the different policies and programs that can exist within your jurisdiction to help move the needle towards meeting the targets. And again, we try to make the link between housing and racial equity. And last but not least, we talk about this larger table of who is responsible for meeting this need. It's not just developers and it's not just local government. There are a whole lot of people that play a role in meeting the need for housing affordability. And so we try to dive into what the responsibilities are for each of those parties. Again, all of you know this definition, but just to review, as we define affordability and what affordable housing means, we generally define that as a household that's paying no more than 30% of their gross income on their housing cost, including utilities. And I know median income has been tossed around. Just for a frame of reference, the 2022 AMI for our region is $142,300 for a family of 4. That comes out to just about $99,000 for a single person household for 2022. The 2023 data from HUD will be released, I believe, sometime next month. But just wanted to give that frame of reference. We like to show this chart, again, thinking about as income goes up, who is housing cost burden? In other words, who is at risk of paying more than a third of their income on their housing expenses? And as you can see, as the annual earnings of certain professions go up, and these are working professions that we all engage with on a daily basis, As that income goes up, the likelihood that that person's going to be housing cost burden goes down. So when we start looking at those lower incomes, and by all argument's sake, these aren't incredibly low incomes. These are working professionals who are firefighters, designers, postal clerks, nursing assistants, and these are folks who are largely finding themselves housing cost burden. Very quickly, I just want to talk about the housing continuum as well, and this is what I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation as we think about the HIT as a tool. We like to talk about housing as this continuum. We all occupy different points of the housing continuum at different points in our lives, and that can be due to age, location, job, family size, change in family household, and change in demographics. So we try to just highlight what we're talking about along this continuum and the fact that a good housing affordability strategy needs to look at all of these different increments along the continuum, because we'll all find ourselves on at least 3 or 4 of these probably throughout the course of our lives. So now talking about regional trends. So I've worked with our partners at Urban, who couldn't be here today, to pull a couple of charts based on what they've been seeing in terms of trends in the region. For reference, this data is based off of 2020 data, not 2022. So just for reference, the AMI for 2020 for a family of 4 was 126,000. I believe that comes to about, I have my number here somewhere, probably about 80-something thousand for a single person household. So a few graphs I'll walk you through. The first one is distribution of households by income level relative to the area. So this is just to give you some context at where incomes are falling with each of the jurisdictions. So you're largely seeing, again, from the bottom at below 30%, going up to the yellow, which is getting up to the 80 to 120% AMI. You can start to see where that's looking for each of the different primary jurisdictions in the COG region. For Montgomery County, you're seeing a bit more than half of your population that is trending below 120% AMI. Now we're going to look at homeownership supply. So owner housing units by monthly housing cost for a first-time home buyer. So what you're looking at, to simplify this a bit, the gray bar, which is your first lower housing cost amount, 0 to $1,599. Obviously, the middle to upper end of that tier is about 50% AMI. The second block of $1,600 to $1,999 per month is about 80% AMI. So what that means is that everything above the blue is really targeting folks above 80% AMI. And as was stated earlier, that means we're looking at mortgages that are well over $2,000 and $3,000 a month. And we can see that with Montgomery County at a large scale, but you're also seeing it as a trend throughout the rest of the region. It is certainly the case in DC. It's certainly the case in Arlington, as well as the rest of Northern Virginia. Prince George's County is a little bit of an outlier. However, the conversation happening in Prince George's County is that there is a lot of development that's coming to the county. And so the plan around housing policy there is really, how do we get to the place where we're not finding ourselves without enough supply to meet the needs of our moderate income households? How do we get to the place where we can really avoid some of the challenges that some of the other jurisdictions in this area have seen as they've experienced economic growth over time? This last chart is homeowner by race and ethnicity. So what you're looking at is first with the greater Washington region and then going down by county. So going from, I'll start with Montgomery County. Gray bar, Asian or Pacific Islander households, identifying households. Pink is Black. Dark blue is Hispanic Latinx. Yellow, Indigenous, other multiple race, and green is white. What this is telling you is that in Montgomery County, of your white households, 71% of white households identify as homeowners. That is in comparison to 41% of Black households. As you look at the other 71% identify as Asian or Pacific Islander households, and I'm just looking at a window on my screen, 76% identify as white households, white homeowner households, versus 41% of Black homeowner households. As you look at the other jurisdictions, you will see a similar disparity where you've got white households and in most cases Asian households as well, largely identifying as homeowners, well over half of those populations identifying as homeowners in comparison to Black and Hispanic households, where you are looking at less than half of those households that can identify as homeowners. This, I think, really articulates where that racial equity and racial wealth gap is. And as I mentioned earlier, this is not something that's happened overnight. This is the result of many, many decades of policy, of practice that have resulted in the gaps that we see today. And so now the role of housing jurisdictions and of the broader housing community is to think about how do we start to close that gap? How do we start to see, in particular, more homeownership opportunities with households of color? What needs to happen from a development standpoint? What needs to happen from a policy standpoint to make that happen? And my last couple of points, just a few things to think about as we talk about how to expand and preserve access to homeownership. And this is based on the work that I do with HAND, but also the work that I do in many other jurisdictions. Racial equity, how do we use homeownership focused policies and initiatives to increase equitable opportunities and outcomes for historically marginalized groups? How do you think about really targeted programs that can focus on homeownership? As an example, in DC, there is a very targeted Black homeownership strike force that was established by the mayor. There are very targeted programs right now in DC that are trying to increase the rate of Black homeownership. Are there examples that can be gleaned from that? And that is obviously a very new program, but just as an example. Pathways to opportunity. How can we create pathways for economic mobility and stability through the expansion of homeownership? And again, as was alluded to earlier, whether we like it or not, homeownership has been the traditional path to building wealth in the United States. So how do we create more inroads for more people to be able to access that? Supporting longtime homeowners. This is a big one here in this region. It's also a big issue elsewhere. I've been working in Charlottesville for several years, and it's a very big conversation point down there right now as they are wrapping up their 3-year comp plan, zoning code, affordable housing strategy update process. How do we ensure that moderate income owners, and particularly older homeowners, are able to keep and maintain their homes, particularly during hot housing markets? The markets in this region continue to be quite hot. The prices continue to rise, or at best they are maybe stabilizing in some areas. But we know that that's also causing a wrench in many folks who are either seeing their income stagnate or seeing a decline as they retire, as they have just a gradual transition in their lives. So how do we support those folks to be able to keep their homes, stay in their homes as long as they would like to, but then also to be able to pass that house and that wealth on going forward? Then last but not least, how do we get creative about what home ownership can look like? Owning a single family detached home has been the traditional mental model I think that a lot of us use, but it's not the only path. What other models exist, whether that's condominium structures, co-ops, land trust? What makes sense to explore in order to think about how we're increasing supply and thereby increasing opportunity? So with that, that is my deck. I provided my contact information here as well as the links to the housing indicator tool, to HAND's website, and to Urban's website as well. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Ms. Thomas, thank you so much. Really appreciate it and thrilled that you were able to join us. Glad we were able to make it work virtually. I want to turn it over to my colleague, Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas, that was great. And as you were speaking, all I was thinking of was Thrive 2050, because the very session that we worked on land use and housing, I was on the planning board and worked on Thrive before I came to the county council, was about land trust, which I actually put on the document, co-ops, attached properties, not just thinking about the single family homes, the importance of creating home ownership, especially among the low income communities, immigrant communities. So yes to everything that you said. And I'm very thankful that you brought them up, because at some point we're going to have to tackle many of those issues that we already have as part of policy goals in Montgomery County. And again, I'm especially interested on land trust. And I look forward to our conversations in the future to talk about that in the aspect of home ownership, that you can own the structure of the home and not the land. The land should be part of a trust to make that happen. So thank you for bringing it up. That's it.
Thank you. I'll turn to Councilmember Girondo.
Yes, Ms. Thomas, thank you. Just wanted to appreciate you joining today and sharing that information. I think it's always important to understand the regional context, and that there are a lot of ways to get at addressing this, and no one's figured it out completely, in this country, really, but that aggregating some of these tools and policies is really helpful. So we look forward to working with you, and with the HIT. I was just remarking to my colleagues, we've got the HIF, the Housing Initiative Fund, we've got the HIT now. So we've got a lot of good.
Acronym City.
There you go.
That's right, Acronym City.
And they're all trying to accomplish the same thing: affordable home ownership for our residents, and whether it be rental or ownership. So thank you, and look forward to being in touch.
Yes, Ms. Thomas, thank you very much. I really appreciate you joining. I hope those who are watching, the millions watching from home, will log on and check out all the great tools that you and Urban and others have put together. It really is remarkable work, and really, I think, provides a framework for us to really be thinking through these issues that we're grappling with. I just want to confirm with council staff that we're going to include, like we did on the last rental housing conversation, these two presentations on the agenda item. So when folks go online to look at this meeting, they will be able to see these presentations, including yours, Ms. Thomas. And I want to note, we look forward to following up. There are a number of areas that you hit on in your quadrant of home ownership issues related to racial equity, related to diversity of housing options and housing types, not just in rental housing, but in home ownership opportunities, the pathways to opportunity that we talked about, and the providing opportunities for middle income and lower income residents to keep their homes and to maintain their homes and to ensure that they're living in both dignified homes, but also homes that meet their accessibility needs, because we do face challenges with middle and lower income residents who have needs that change, can't afford to move into a new option, and unfortunately also sometimes can't afford to make the what can be expensive updates to be able to retrofit a home to meet changes to accessibility and access needs. So lots more to talk about, including some conversations later today for the rest of our panel, but we will keep this moving along. We will allow you to go with a sincere appreciation for you joining us today, and a commitment to be following up to access all the expertise that you and your colleagues provide, because we certainly want to work together with you to address the challenges that you have raised and that we know exist here in Montgomery County and throughout the region.
Sounds great. Look forward to working with you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. We're going to move on to our next panel, the economics of home ownership in Montgomery County. And I'll invite our partners to join us here. We have Jeff D. And Sarah Redinger, President and CEO and Vice President of Community Development with Habitat for Humanity. Maury Peterson, the Executive Director of Rebuilding Together, and Avi Adler, the President of the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors. With that, we're going to start with Habitat for Humanity. Mr. D and Ms. Redinger, we have a presentation, and we will turn to you.
Great, thank you, Council Member. My name is Jeffrey D, and I'm the President and CEO of Habitat for Humanity. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be here and to talk about our mission, affordable housing, and the economics of that. So Habitat believes that a stable, decent place to live in a connected community with an affordable mortgage enables homeowners to save more, invest in education, pursue opportunities, and have greater financial stability. And we know that better, more affordable housing leads to stronger childhood development and creates the ability and financial flexibility for a family to make forward-looking choices that have long-lasting impacts. So Habitat for Humanity International as a corporate entity there's about 1,100 affiliates across the country, and we build in 70 countries around the world. Our affiliate, Habitat for Humanity Metro Maryland, began in Montgomery County in 1982, and we have built 102 homes since 1982. And what I wanted to do is just kind of start from 1976, and Habitat for Humanity was founded in 1976 in rural Georgia and has grown to become the world's largest nonprofit home builder. So the initial seed of Habitat came out of a community experiment known as Koinonia Farm, where whites and blacks lived together, worked together, and ate together. And it was really an attempt to recreate first century Christianity, where everything was held in common. And the reason I bring that up is there are several overarching themes that come out of that impact us today and sort of guide us today. And I have up on the slide our spiritual godfather, Clarence Jordan. So Jimmy and Rosalind Carter didn't start Habitat. They made it famous. It was started by Millard and Linda Fuller, and the person that influenced them was Clarence Jordan. And here's what he said. He said that what the poor need is not charity, but access to capital. Not caseworkers, but co-workers. So that is sort of, our biggest challenges today that limit our ability to build affordable housing is very simply lack of capital and a lack of opportunities. Now, my colleague Sarah will talk about this, but Randolph Road, as many of you were there, is a perfect example of where we had access to capital and the opportunity. We can fundraise, we have resources that generate net profits, but it's the lack of capital at the beginning that creates a challenge for us. So the role of capital is one theme that came out of Koinonia Farm. The second thing was radical inclusivity. And when we talk about racial equity, that's who we are. I mean, that's what Habitat is all about. It's in our genome. We serve families who do not have access to traditional financing. That's who we work with. Millard Fuller, the founder, said, if we are not having problems with our homeowners, we have the wrong homeowners. Meaning, if we're not working with people who are having challenges, because we're working with the lower people on the lower income level, then we're not working with the right people. And so Habitat International recently started the Advancing Black Homeownership Initiative to take our work and sort of turbocharge it, supercharge it to better combat that issue, as mentioned earlier, about the racial gap. And the last thing the last idea that came out of this, and it's related, is partnership housing. So our future home buyers participate in the process of building their home so that they develop and learn the tools to be successful. So why that matters is we have had one default in our 40-year history. And across the United States, it's about a 2% foreclosure rate. So Habitat has the tools and the model to work with families. And what we need, as I mentioned earlier, is access to capital and opportunities. So who we serve, if you just go to the next slide. So we have two elements of home ownership. That's our focus. We have home purchase and home preservation. Sarah will talk about the home preservation. But if you go to the next slide, that is a typical example of our single-family detached house, universal design. I think that's a 4-bedroom. To allow people to age in place. And then the next slide is a rehab where we've bought a vacant, distressed property, and we have turned it and sold it to the family. I would just someone will talk to us and say, well, when we talk to for-profit builders, they kind of are horrified by the fact that when we talk, we don't look at how much money we're going to make. We look at how much money we're going to lose on each house. We accept going in that we will lose money. Now, the goal is to lose as little as possible. That's why we do fundraising, but we accept that that's part of it. So when we buy a distressed vacant property, we put between $100,000 to $150,000 into it. We will gut it, rebuild it, get it up to code, make it better than code, and set the family up for success. So the challenge for us is, again, I'm not trying to belabor it, access to capital, access to opportunity, so that we can then work our model. And I want to turn it over to Sarah, who's going to, if you want to just go to the next slide, one more, sorry. Keep Kate on that slide, though. And I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Thanks, Jeff, and thank you again for having us. So I just wanted to walk through quickly an example of sort of our cost and our financing, and I figured I'd use Randolph Road since I know you all are familiar with that. But as Jeff said, our issues really are lack of access to opportunity, lack of access to capital. Those are our limiting factors. So in terms of costs, we're kind of looking at the cost per unit for just the condos at Randolph Road. So we're looking at a total per unit cost of about $356,000. And I'll mention that because the county donated the land, that cost does not include the cost of land. And the other thing that I think is really unique about Randolph Road that benefits the per unit cost here is the co-location of rental and home ownership. There are significantly more resources available to finance rental housing than there are home ownership. So to do a large scale ownership project like this as solely ownership would be incredibly difficult to finance. But because of our partners AHC on this project, bringing a lot of other financing tools to bear, including low-income housing tax credits, we're able to benefit from their economies of scale as well with additional rental units on site and really to drive down our development costs. So for reference, if you include land, typically when Habitat is doing some of the projects that Jeff was showing photos of, so detached single-family homes, new and rehab projects, those per unit costs are typically between $450,000 and $500,000 per unit. So we're looking at a significant subsidy in every unit that we build in order to make it affordable. Next slide, please. So in terms of how we finance all of this, typically what Habitat will do is we will take a look at how much we believe we can get in mortgages and the sale of those mortgages at the end of the project and not borrow more in construction loan than those mortgages, right? That's the total debt that we can take on and be able to repay at the end. The rest is subsidy. So we're able to get some grants from the state of Maryland. The county also contributes. There's in-kind donations, there's some closing cost assistance, but really when we're looking at serving a family at 30% of area median income at Randolph, we're providing a more than $200,000 subsidy. That subsidy drops to about $100,000 if you go up to 50% of AMI, but it's still fairly significant. So overall, as a total project, this is roughly $10 million for Habitat, $6 million in debt. And then the remaining $4 million was $1.5 million capital campaign, working with the state delegation for a bond bill last session, working with the county, and then identifying additional grants that will come in over the next 2 years to fill up that entire $10 million gap. But there is, again, significant subsidy, and that's one of the reasons that affordable homeownership is so difficult to build. Next slide, please. So just really quickly, some opportunities. We really appreciate the council's support of the down payment assistance programs. We know you all have increased funding for that over the past couple of years, which is fantastic. We could also look at piloting a program like they have in DC, where folks can access, well over $100,000 per unit in down payment assistance to really buy down that sales price to a level that's affordable, especially for folks purchasing through the open market, but also working with programs like ours. Also looking at creative construction financing tools that have longer terms. So typically the HIF loans are shorter terms, but with affordable homeownership, we really need the idea of potentially putting that debt on as a soft second that sits on the house until it's resold and then is repaid back to the county. I'll just briefly mention the idea of property tax credits. This is obviously a limiting factor when you're purchasing a home. If you're not spending more than 30% of your income on housing and property taxes continue to increase, your mortgage amount decreases. So as much as we can do to expand property tax credits for lower income families would be very helpful. And then I won't go into detail on this because I know community land trusts have come up and shared equity models already, but those can be a great way to reduce costs and allow entry into home ownership. Next slide, please. So really quickly, I'll just touch on home preservation. We do a significant amount of this as well, working with lower income homeowners and helping them stay in their home. This is absolutely about pride. It is about dignity. It's about accessibility and safety and health. But also, as LaToya mentioned earlier, this is absolutely about the preservation of generational wealth. We work with a lot of families of color through our home preservation programs, and they are at risk of losing their homes and that wealth that comes along with it. Next slide, please. So our programs are typically working with folks who are around $40,000. That's our average right now. But across our service area, we have over 1,600 homes on our inquiry list. That equates to hundreds of homes in Montgomery County that we can't serve without additional funding. And really, these programs are needed by a broad range of folks. So we're serving children, we're serving older adults, veterans, and folks with disabilities. Next slide, please. So in terms of how this is funded, we're really excited to partner with Montgomery County. We do administer the county's energy efficiency program for homeowners. Also are administering the Design for Life program in partnership with Rebuilding Together that was funded by the council to help improve accessibility modifications. But on an annual basis, we're leveraging about $1 million in the county for home preservation programs between private and government sources. And then I'll just mention too, on the home preservation side, it's really important to Habitat that we look at the impact that our homes have on the climate as well. So we've been running a weatherization program for 12 years now. We've also been working with Department of Environmental Protection on an electrification cohort and looking at how we can electrify the homes of lower income families and then solarize them as well. So hopefully in the next year we can really start to partner weatherization, electrification, and solarization as well. So I'll end there and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. I think there are a few questions, but we're going to have all the presentations, and then we'll ask the questions at the end if that's okay with you. But thank you for that presentation and for all the work that you're doing. I will get to my comments and questions in a minute, but why don't we go to Maury Peterson with Rebuilding Together. Thanks for joining us.
So for the record, I'm Maury Peterson, Executive Director at Rebuilding Together Montgomery County, and I want to thank you for having me here today, as well as thank all of you and the county executive, the council, for all of the funding you provide to make our work possible. We wouldn't be able to do it without you, so thank you. So next slide. So our mission is really to preserve affordable housing in Montgomery County. That's the bottom line. So we were founded in 1990 by 2 community volunteers, and we've every year we day in and day out we're here to preserve affordable housing and to keep people in their homes. And so since we've started, we've served over 2,800 low-income families and galvanized more than 50,000 community volunteers. That's a really interesting part of our model, is trying to engage community members in our neighbor helping neighbor approach. And it's a really impactful way for people to give back and help their neighbors, and to get into other neighborhoods maybe where you don't live and see how other folks are living, and to give back to your community. So next slide. So we serve about 180, we plan to serve 180 families this fiscal year. It's a little bit of robbing Peter to pay Paul, probably, as Habitat can say. We never have enough funding to serve everyone, and so we have to make some hard choices at times. But we try to leverage that with a lot of in-kind donations and volunteer support, as I mentioned. And the main program we have is our Safe and Healthy Homes program. So we're out to do critical home repairs and accessibility modifications for the most vulnerable homeowners in our county. So we focus at 50% or less of area median income. We're the only nonprofit that is focused on that specifically, and all of our services are free to homeowners, 100%. So once they qualify, all the services that we can do are free. Many of them have many issues, and so we can't address everything, but we try to do the most critical repairs. So we're really focused on accessibility, things like grab bars and tub cuts, and we want people to age in place. We're working on plumbing, HVAC, roofing. We have amazing volunteers that have skills, and then we have a lot that have we call unskilled, but people can come out and help us as best they can. We also work with paid contractors. We have a focus on helping contractors of color. Every contractor we have is a person of color. We've outsourced a lot of our vendors so that we can have vendors of color and have more support from them, and also improve our languages that we can offer to our homeowners to support them. We also do weatherization through a program through MEA, and so we offer that as well. Next slide. So our Safe and Healthy Homes, folks, as I said, we focus on area, 50% or less of area median income. So this little chart just shows, if you have one person in the home, it's $49,850, and it goes up from there, about $7,000 per person. Our homeowners last year, the average family income was $22,000, which is more than half of that. So in addition, 73% of the folks we served last year were people of color. 63% were senior citizens, and 62% were female-headed households. So we have folks, a lot of seniors out there that have had their homes for decades, that have decades of deferred maintenance. Many of our homeowners have given up their homeowners insurance because they can't afford the premiums. And so that's a very dangerous situation for everybody, including the neighbors, right? So, so we are trying to, those are the kind of the qualifications that are listed up there of what folks have to do to be eligible for our services. Next slide. The other way we try to help the community is through our community revitalization partnerships. So in addition to helping homeowners stay in their homes, we want to help other nonprofits who are serving vulnerable populations. So we will do facility refreshes and critical repairs on other facilities for other nonprofits. So many of you know we used to be known as Christmas in April, and then about 20 years ago they changed the name to Rebuilding Together. And so every last Saturday in April we have National Rebuilding Day. So April, we've now turned it into a 3-day event. So April 28th, 29th, and 30th will be out in force. We're going to be helping 25 homeowners and some nonprofits. We have 25 volunteer groups coming out. So we'll be spanning out. You're all invited to come and join in the fun. But it's an opportunity for us to help other nonprofits, things like Housing Unlimited, Interfaith Works, Stepping Stone Foundation. Those are just a few of the nonprofits that we've recently partnered with. Okay, next slide. And then as Sarah mentioned, we have a new program that has just launched, thanks to the County Council for passing that and getting the contract all signed for us. It's Designed for Life. And so we will have $125,000 to help with keeping people in their homes and serving folks that have that need accessibility modifications. So it's really focused on folks that are either age 65 and older, or somebody that has a disability, or both. So we're able to do a lot more specific repairs that and spend a little bit more to make sure that people can stay in their homes. So that's great. Okay, next slide. So this is just an example. We just had the first 4 projects approved this morning, so we're super excited. So the first person that will be served will be Mrs. T. She's 91 years old. She lives with her disabled daughter. And they've been having trouble with her getting in and out of her home. So we are going to be installing a ramp at the front entrance, doing handrails on the interior stairway, accessible shower modification, and grab bars. So this really helps to decrease the amount of people that have to move to nursing homes or to give up their homes because they can't stay in their homes. And also with this particular homeowner, she has a disabled daughter, so it's helping both of the folks in the home, which is really great. Yeah, next slide. Okay, and then just our impact. You know, the number one thing for seniors especially is our falls, and so if we can prevent falls, that will keep people, you know, at home. We had outside evaluators look at our program and come in and see what the true impact was, and we have a huge impact on injury reduction. 7 out of 10 homeowners who receive repairs from us said they had a less chance of falling, they hadn't fallen. 9 out of 10 said they now plan to age in place, where some of them had planned to thought that they had to move. And then just the whole kind of pride and community feeling that people get staying in their homes, and also this neighbor helping neighbor approach of being able to help and give back to your neighbors. Next. And so this is just for folks that are interested. We try to make it as easy as possible for homeowners. We have our applications in Spanish and in English on our website, and we try to make it as easy as possible. We have an AmeriCorps client outreach coordinator who can walk folks and really do it hand in hand. We want to try to serve as many people as we can, and just our biggest, as other groups have said, is just having enough money to do all the repairs that are needed. The need is great. There's a lot of people interested in receiving services, and we just don't have the capacity to get to everyone because of funding. Next. And so that's it. There's some contact information, and we're super happy to be here and answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. I've been told just before we get to comments at the end that when I volunteer that my pay is commensurate with my skills. So I appreciate you noting that. With that, let's turn to Avi Adler with the Greater Capital Area of Realtors. Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors. It's right in front of me, and I'm not even reading it.
Don't feel bad. I'm the president. I get it mixed up all the time.
I was going to say GCAR, but I thought it was easier to say than acronyms so that people understood what we were talking about, and that was my first mistake. But with that, we'll turn to you, and appreciate you joining us.
Well, thank you, Council Vice President Friedson and Council Member Fanny Gonzalez, Council Member Jawando, for having me here today. My name is Avi Adler, and I have the pleasure of serving as the 2023 President of the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors. Let me move a little closer here. Representing over 11,000 area realtors, title attorneys, and industry professionals. Today's conversation is a very important one. Becoming a homeowner is a special milestone, and it remains one of the greatest opportunities to build generational wealth. But as we have heard today, there are increasing barriers to homeownership in our communities. On behalf of the local real estate industry, I have brought for you today a snapshot of some of these barriers. Next slide, please. Earlier this year, Maryland Realtors did a poll to assess the state of and the public opinion on the housing market, and it relayed hard stats behind trends we are seeing. Day to day, buyers are facing strong headwinds when trying to enter the housing market. 76% of those polled said the cost of housing is too high, and that's up 19% from 2020. Next slide, please. So what are the factors behind these troubling signs? Well, we have cited 5 here for you today. Rising housing prices, lack of inventory, climbing mortgage rates, slowing wage growth, and more debt. The next slide, please. As you can see from the chart, both number of sales and median price have cooled dramatically versus the heights of the boom in the summer of 2021 and the spring of 2022. Despite the average 30-year mortgage rate rising from under 3% to over 7% in less than a year, while prices are down from the extremes, they are still consistent with the higher marks we've seen in recent years. With the relatively high prices and continuing low inventory, homeowners are beginning to hold on to their properties instead of rejoining the market. This is a scarcity of options. If you're looking to downsize, there's no sense of urgency right now. These market conditions create a disincentive to selling a home. Next slide, please. This graph is familiar to those on the dais, but it is worth spending just a moment on. Let's focus on just single-family housing. In the 1980s, the county had an average of 6,000 units in single-family structures built per year. In the 1990s, it was down to 2,800. By the 2010s, we were down to 1,100 per year. Our population growth has continued steadily for 40 years, but our development has absolutely cratered. And despite construction lagging, population growth continues. While we do have finite boundaries and an important agricultural reserve to maintain, this is not a green space development issue. It is a land use problem that is holding us back. Next slide, please. The next graph shows housing expenses and affordability as a function of the mortgage rate. And simply put, a lower mortgage rate signals more buying power and the lower monthly payments. After 2008, the rates were low and buyers could expect much bigger bang for their buck getting into the market. But with mortgage rates closing in on 7%, even a 20% down payment will not ease the monthly cost or the burden. So rough math, Montgomery County's median income was around $115,000 last year. In January of this year, the median price of a Montgomery County home was $555,000. With a 20% down payment and a 30-year mortgage, that buyer will be spending over 30% of their income on housing. This threshold is defined as cost burdened. And can we realistically expect new buyers to make the leap into a home purchase where they're immediately cost burdened? Next slide, please. Compounding the issues of rising mortgage rates is stagnant wage growth. Coupled with inflation wreaking havoc on the day-to-day cost, it's increasingly difficult for the emerging generations to save enough to get over the hump of making a down payment. While there are numerous programs to assist in this regard, many find themselves in no man's land of not qualifying for them, even when they are able to afford the monthly payments for what's on the market. Next slide, please. In 2021, the National Association of Realtors did a nationwide polling project to get a sense of scale of student loan debt and its effects on potential home buyers. The results paint a clear picture of younger Americans, especially those in the Black African American community, struggling under the weight of student loans and pushing back life decisions like home ownership, marriage, and starting a family. This reduction in buying power has stark implications in a housing market that has seen year-over-year increases for more than 11 years, especially since the start of the pandemic. The issue here is not qualifying for a mortgage. Student loan debt is not factored into the mortgage approval equation. Many first-time homebuyers can and do qualify. The real issue here becomes what they can actually afford based on their household budget and income after their student loan payments are actually added into the equation of their monthly budget. Once they do, many of these prospective buyers are self-selecting out of the home purchase process. Next slide, please. So how do we prepare the next generation to face these issues? When students leave our schools, they're often faced with managing their daily finances and expenses. And those who move on to post-secondary education are not always offered many opportunities to learn personal finance. Realtors are strong proponents of financial literacy education. I mean, the earlier the better. Though the Council does not have direct oversight of MCPS and its curriculum, we would be remiss if we did not highlight the groundwork of our colleagues in D.C. who've laid the groundwork to bringing this crucial curriculum to the area students. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, while we can make progress against this problem now, many of the solutions this Council can implement are long-term fixes. As we mentioned, emerging generations are waiting longer and longer to purchase their first home. The average age of the first-time home buyer is now 36 years old. That's older than it's ever been. We can't afford to let other jurisdictions reap the benefits of newer generations, putting down roots. The recent census showed this. Maryland saw a net loss of over 15,000 Gen Zers, while D.C. became one of their top destinations. In closing, I'd like to share a recent real-life buyer to homeownership example here in the county. It's one that hits close to home for our family. My oldest daughter is 26 years old. She and her boyfriend have great jobs. They make good income. She loved growing up here in Montgomery County and would love to come back to the area to start her family. When my wife and I first had children, lived in Montgomery County, we'd run into people I knew from elementary school, at the pumpkin patch festivals and playgrounds, and they'd move back to the area just like we did to be closer to family. And frankly, after living in other places, they decided there wasn't a better place to live. The love of where you were raised, where your roots are, and the desire to return there, it's a gift, and not something you hear people frequently say where they come from. My daughter and her boyfriend believe strongly in home ownership and had a strong desire to purchase a home and begin building family equity and building equity of their own here. When you have a good job and you're pre-qualified to purchase a home and have a strong desire to move back to the area you grew up in because you love it, because you want to be closer to family, and knowing your family will contribute to the local economy, but make the difficult decision to purchase a home in Philadelphia instead, due to the high cost of housing and lack of inventory in Montgomery County, that's a real problem. Well, this is my story. I share it with you anecdotally today because it's a story that over 11,000 realtors in our area and who live and work in Montgomery County face each and every day. It's a story that will continue to escalate and change the face and sense of community here in our county. Montgomery County is a wonderful place to live. I was born and raised here. My parents lived here before me and my grandparents before them. The reality, though, is that it has a high cost of living, and our top-shelf county services and amenities do not come cheap. We must hasten our development and think outside the box of planning practices. It is not enough to maintain what is. We as a region have to take action to build a better future and lower the barriers to realizing the dream of home ownership. I want to thank you again for the opportunity to be part of this important conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm going to go through, ask a few questions, and I'll turn to colleagues. I think I have some questions as well. First, for Habitat for Humanity, thank you for joining us for all the work that you do. The Randolph project is exciting. I hope it's the first of many more to come. I will note the Council's interest in seeing a project like that happen, and it is happening in a better way than even we had hoped for when we went through the master plan process with one of our colleagues at the planning board and the two of us here at the council, and we worked meticulously through that process. We specifically cited that property as the opportunity to really leverage public land for greater opportunities for affordable housing, and you've helped provide a homeownership element to that project, which is really just amazing. I also want to thank you for the work that we are jointly doing in Scotland community to try to address the 25 homeowner-occupied residences there. I know you've been in that community for a while, doing quite a bit of work, and certainly there's a lot of opportunity for us to ensure that we provide safe, dignified housing for generations to come, and really appreciate all of your engagement and interest and leadership there. I had 2 questions about your work that I just wanted you to address, many of which other questions you addressed very well in your presentation. But the first is, can you talk a little bit about accessory dwelling units and how you see accessory dwelling units as part of the opportunities for Habitat for Humanity to provide the access to both capital and opportunity and home ownership opportunities to your residents?
No, absolutely. And we appreciate working with you and former Councilmember Reamer on the accessory dwelling unit legislation to make it easier to build them. We absolutely see that as part of our work. We know that a lot of lower income homeowners are struggling to maintain their homes, as both Maury and I have talked about today. And we see accessory dwelling units as an opportunity for them to have additional income, to have sort of lower rent options in a lot of different communities across the county for folks to be able to live in. So it's adding additional units on a site, right, but also providing additional income for lower income homeowners to help them maintain their homes and to maintain their mortgages. So we see this as an opportunity for Habitat to be able to work with lower income homeowners to build these units in their yards or in their homes already. It's also an opportunity to build a unit in the backyard that's accessible for folks to move into and then rent out the main home so they can live in a smaller space. I think one of the biggest challenges there, like we said earlier, is access to capital. And so a lot of times lower income families don't have the income to repay a loan, so they can't access the equity in their home. They can't access that equity for home repairs. They can't access it to build accessory dwelling units. And so Habitat is really tasked with finding, again, the subsidy to help folks build those homes. And then we're also able to underwrite a mortgage to help them pay back a portion of that loan with the future rent that they would receive. So I think accessory dwelling units are an incredible opportunity for lower income homeowners, also lower income renters to be able to live in a lot of different communities across our county that may not have opportunities for them otherwise.
Appreciate that. Thank you for your help and leadership on the ADU changes. We're looking at opportunities for broader financing to help more families and residents be able to take advantage of ADUs and figuring out how we can make them more accessible and affordable to more people to take advantage of. So I really appreciate your work, and we'll follow up with you to get more feedback on what you're seeing. I know you do a lot of work in this arena and really would be helpful to take advantage of that. You talked a lot about the environmental justice as well as racial justice and other broader justice issues that you deal with when it comes to housing. And all the weatherization and other amazing projects, some of which we looked at in Scotland and other communities that I have seen firsthand and know how much benefit they provide. Even a roof, putting in a quality, more sustainable roof, and the impact that has on reducing leaks and weatherizing the windows and other projects that you undertake. Have you had any conversations? Do you work at all with the Green Bank to partner on financing opportunities?
Yeah, so the Green Bank has been a part of a lot of the electrification conversations. So we've been participating with Montgomery County DEP on an electrification cohort that's organized by RMI, the Rocky Mountain Institute, and we've been doing that for a little over a year now, and the Green Bank has been a part of those conversations. So we are working with them to look at funding opportunities. It's a little bit tougher on residential single-family owner-occupied homes, but we have had conversations with them, and they're involved in those. Yeah.
Appreciate it. I would encourage you to follow back up as part of the bill that Tom Hucker and I put forward, the Montgomery County Green Buildings Now Act. Nancy Navarro pushed for an amendment that we supported very strongly to ensure dedicated funding specifically in equity emphasis areas. And I'm excited to report that that historic investment, the largest investment in climate in county history, the target that they had for the year was reached at about the 6-month mark in terms of the amount of money dedicated in equity emphasis areas. Some of your programs specifically would help in that arena as well. They're also committed to technical assistance in addition to just equity. And so I think both on the financing and on the technical side of some of these opportunities, perhaps they could be a helpful partner. So I'd be happy to facilitate that more. It sounds like you already have a relationship there, but I'd encourage further conversation as well. So I appreciate that. I'll note the Design for Life project. I'm really excited that several of us have a proposal on how to add a lot more funding to that program in addition to the first-time homebuyer program, which I think would significantly allow for the expansion of some of the projects and programs that have been discussed. I think that we need to provide the same level of commitment to expanding home ownership opportunities as we have to rental affordability issues. They're both in crisis. They both have huge needs throughout the community. I think there's tremendous opportunities here. Our tools are more limited, as you noted, and these issues are more complicated, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doubling down on these efforts. So I just wanted to note that, and I will turn it over to either of my colleagues if you have any questions. Councilmember Fani-Gonzalez.
This is actually great transition. I had a meeting with the Green Bank a few days ago, and I brought up this very issue. And great timing for you to follow up. It's not on top of their agenda right now. They're busy on other things. And they did mention to me that the Montgomery County Housing and Community Affairs Office has a program that focuses on repairs and all that, but I think there is room for more, as Chair Fritzen mentioned. So if you follow up with them now, that'll be great, and then we can follow up too. Maybe have them here and just take it over. My questions actually is also in the area of repairs. When I was canvassing in my district, as you may know, it includes Claremont and Aspen Hill, which are areas where significant numbers of people who are low income live in. And I met with a lot of seniors and with a lot of immigrants like me, who owns homes that are not in the best condition, and they do need help getting access to programs where they can repair their homes, especially understanding that many times we find homes where you can have easily 2 families or 3 families, maybe more, living in just one single family home, and we need to make sure that those homes are actually healthy and in good condition. They're safe. So I guess I'm just gonna drop it here, but I'm thinking that perhaps it's the Montgomery County Housing and Community Affairs group who should be answering this in the next panel. I really want to dig into those programs and see what else they need to ensure that their communities have access to them, since the need is so huge. I guess I need also an idea of how much money do we have right now and how much money do we really need to ensure that it's efficient, and how we're tracking that expense. Maybe we should be having, quarterly meetings with them here and seeing how they're using those funds. Same thing even with the funds that are allocated for housing construction. I have no idea how much money the county executive has left to create more projects like the one we did on Randolph Road, right? That's the perfect example. We should be tracking that, and this is a perfect committee to see that. So I know I said a lot. You don't need to answer. Maybe the next panel will answer some of it. And thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you for that. We'll allow the next panel to answer. We do have plans to have a regular review of the Housing Initiative Fund to make it a little clearer and more transparent, to understand the funding available, and to make sure that this committee and the council more broadly really understands how much money is available, how many resources are available, that we're transparent with our partners, the nonprofit and the broader development community who would like to access these funds to actually build affordable housing. And so certainly agree, and it's in the works, and figuring out what is the best avenue to be able to do that in a way that we can turn it into action. Because one thing to sit here and discuss, it's another thing to actually turn these funding priorities into actual housing for the people who desperately need it. But I appreciate the comments, and Councilmember Joanna.
Yeah, agreed, and appreciate comments of my colleagues. Thank you for all your work that you do. It's been great. I've been out and volunteered before, so look forward to doing it again. I think I was pretty handy. I'll try to keep that up. But thank you for all your work at Habitat. Thank you, GCAR, for your advocacy. I did want to note, as chair of the Education Committee, I know this issue of financial literacy comes up a lot. Our last student member of the board pushed a proposal to have it required as a graduation requirement. The school board did not move forward last year on it, but did add some additional courses at it, and is going to revisit. So I think it's an important point. I never forget when I went away to college, the first thing that they did was send someone who was older than me and was very attractive to come get me to sign up for a credit card in my dorm. And a lot of us signed up. It was my first credit card, $500 limit at, I don't even want to tell you the interest rate. And it's a big issue and for across the board. And so making sure that you get that fair start, realizing many people are starting because of institutional equity behind where they should have been. I think it's important to point out, like communities that were redlined, and then you use those costs of those homes to be the baseline for sales in the future after the discriminatory practices have been washed away. It's baked into the pie. So that's why now the homes cost less, and appraisals and all the issues that we get. So there's a lot of cross-cutting issues, but you all are certainly helping to solve them, and we need to keep helping you solve them. So thank you, and appreciate the comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Joanna. I appreciate you noting that as chair of the Education and Culture Committee. I'll note that I worked quite a bit on the financial literacy question at the state level, and a major question not just in Montgomery County Public Schools, but curriculum in school districts across the state, which I hope that everybody adopts that. And I'm really glad you brought up the credit card issue, because actually the first policy issue that I worked on in college advocating at the state level was predatory financial practices, and actually preventing predatory financial practices. Exactly, the hawker with the credit card in your dorm room from being able to go onto a college campus and entice unknowing consumers into financial instruments that they didn't understand, and doing it frankly intentionally, which has caused all kinds of ripple effects down the line. And so really appreciate you raising that. We did prohibit that in the state of Maryland, I will say. So it's no longer as much of an issue as it was in Maryland, but that just prevents the college campus, not the second you step off that college campus in Maryland. And I know Councilmember Joanna was not talking about a Maryland college campus. But with that, I really appreciate our panel. You're great partners for us. I look forward to more partnerships to be able to provide more housing for more people, and to specifically dive into this commitment that we need to make to ensure that the generational wealth opportunities that home ownership means is provided to more people, because that absolutely has to be a key part of the conversation when we talk about housing affordability in Montgomery County and wealth building and equity in Montgomery County. We can't have that conversation unless home ownership is part of it, and we can't do it without public support. We can't do it without public-private partnership. And so I really appreciate each of you joining us. And with that, we're going to go to our next panel. We have the current county tools for home ownership. We noted that the tools are somewhat limited, but we do have tools, many of which are helping residents, some of which we heard a preview about earlier. But we have Department of Housing and Community Affairs here from the county. We have Housing Opportunities Commission, and we have the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, and also the Housing Initiative Partnership, all here to join us. So If we are ready, I see Ms. Gentry is here. If you're comfortable, we're going to start with you. Thank you for joining us. And I think we have your slide presentation up and ready to go. And with that, when you're ready, you can hit your button and we're ready to go.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having us here today on this particularly important subject. So I'm here with my colleague, Summer Cross, who manages our MPDU program, and we'll talk in detail about it. But talking about home ownership is really critical, and we are particularly interested in helping you to understand what we currently do in terms of home ownership within DHCA. I will start with Summer. So Summer, do you want to?
Sure, I'll go right ahead.
A little bit to the microphone because sometimes it's okay for us to hear, but for those who are watching, it might be a little bit harder for them to hear. So you can just make sure you're leaning. Thank you.
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm Summer Cross. I'm the manager of the Affordable Housing Program section. I'm going to talk about the tools and the various stages of the life cycle of home ownership that DHCA has. So our programs focus on three main points of the life cycle of home ownership: production, affordability for the actual purchase, and then maintaining it after the purchase in a safe and healthy environment. Next slide. On the production side, I'm going to take each of those three steps separately. On the production side, we have four key tools: the MPDU and workforce housing programs, which are inclusionary programs. They're probably our most well known, but we would also like to mention the HIF and the use of county-owned land as some financing options. Next slide. So I'll start with the MPDU program. MPDU, as many of you know, is the moderately priced dwelling unit. It's aimed at 70% AMI or below, which in 2022 income numbers equates to $99,500 for a household of 4. MPDUs currently, when they come into our system for home ownership, they retain a 30-year renewing control period. What that means is that if those units are sold prior to 30 years, somebody living in that home for 30 years, they're going to come back to us and we will reset that price to sell it to another affordable homeowner. We would also reset that 30-year period, which therefore keeps and maintains the units in our system potentially indefinitely. Because this program is so long-standing, we've had other control period timelines in the past, and so there are a lot of units that are still out there under our 10-year control period. And when those units expire or when they get resold, they come back to us and they can sell those units at market rate prices, and then we, the county, and the homeowner share the profits on that. The additional money gets put back into the HIF, which I'll talk about later, which can then get used to purchase other affordable units. Not quite yet. Sorry, because the program has been, it's now nearing its 50th anniversary. We have produced over 10,500 for-sale units ever, which is far and exceeds other inclusionary zoning programs throughout the country. We still have about 3,600 units in existence, meaning that they're either in that 10 or 30-year period, but they haven't sold again, so they're still technically MPDUs. And we have about 1,700 under control. On average, we create 226 new for-sale units, but because MPDUs go where development goes and is based on the number of new developments, it changes with the market rate. This graph actually looks very similar to one you saw in one of the last panel presentations, GCAR, because again, MPDUs go with development, so you'll see that ebb and flow of the market. The blue shows our actual for-sale units, which you can see has been in the past much smaller than our rental units. Again, just because of market. MPDU department doesn't actually dictate whether a development is going to be for sale or rental. That is completely up to the developer. So it is what gets built. Okay. Very, very quickly, we in DHCA work on both sides of the production side. We work with developers and we work with the applicants. I like to think of us as a matchmaking system. We put the two together, but we don't get involved in all of the financial details. On the development side, we work with park and planning at the beginning stages of development when it goes to the development review committee, and we review for code compliance, ensure that the units are distributed evenly throughout the community. We don't want them hidden off into the corner. We don't want them, in the worst spots of a development. We would like them all evenly distributed. We work with the development team then through a number of agreement stages to ensure livability, again, ensure code compliance, and eventually to set the sales price. Finally, we would set the covenants that set the control period for that 30 years and maintain the rules of the requirements of the program. We also work with our purchasers from the pre-application stage when people initially say they would like to take part in this program and potentially become an MPDU homeowner. We walk them through various classes and education programs that would give them some knowledge and information on first-time home buying opportunities and the benefits and burdens of home ownership. We also have education classes specifically on the MPDU program so that they understand what they're getting into. We work with them throughout the application process, review for income levels and household size. We review the sales documents, and then in the post-purchase, again, we work with them should they want to resell, refinance, and again, selling it through our program, again, if it's within the control period. New for 2023, we also have some post-purchase counseling for MPDU homeowners to, again, help them with things that come about after you own a home so that we can talk out through refinancing considerations and repairs, other things that come about with home ownership. To paint the overall picture of where we are in 2022, here are some important MPDU numbers. We have over 400 households on our waiting list. It's not a surprise to anybody in this room today that our supply is not keeping up with our demand. We had in 2022 184 new units offered for but only 62 of those were for sale. Of the 1,074 new MPDUs that we know are under construction and going to be offered in the next 2 to 3 years, only 78 of those will be for sale. We have something about like 4,500 new MPDUs in the pipeline, meaning that they're in developments that are in some stage of review at Park and Planning. We're not sure what that percentage is for sale, but that is a pretty significant number. We'd like to think there would be a good number of for sale units in there. And then in 2022, our average sales price was $196,500, so just under $200,000. That includes new and resales, which is why how we get that number. So that's the MPDU program. We should also mention the workforce housing program. It is not mandated by zoning, so we don't get as many units by any means in this program. It is aimed for a slightly higher average income, which the numbers in 2022 are on the screen here to show you what that range is. We had 6 new units created in 2022, 2 more coming this year. And because this program bases its sales price on income levels, not construction costs like the MPDU program, the sales price last year was $473,000. Can't talk about production without talking about the Housing Initiative Fund, but I'm not going to get into a lot of details because I believe that is a topic coming up for further discussion at another date. But the Housing Initiative Fund is our DHCA's fund for virtually all of the county housing priorities. It does assist with affordable housing production and development and has been used for a variety of housing types. Another tool, which I won't get into a lot of details, is the use of county-owned land. It's the opportunity to lease land for a minimum fee for a variety of years. In Maryland, in particular in Montgomery County, land prices are one of the highest line items in a construction project, and this definitely saves enough money to be able to provide more affordable units. I know the last panel also talked about Randolph Road, but we wanted to also mention it, that there was 27 homeownership units created. And not only that, but the units were more family friendly with 3 and 4 bedrooms. It was a large partnership between AHC, Habitat, and Interfaith Works. Then on the affordability side, we have 3 down payment assistance programs. The Montgomery Home Owner Program, the Montgomery County Home Ownership Assistance Fund, and our new Montgomery Employee Down Payment Assistance Loan. So again, lots of acronyms: MHP, MCAF, and MedPal. The MedPal is coming online this year. It was initially funded last year in the budget. We are on track for an April start date for that. So I don't have any data on what has been distributed this year, but I would expect to start sending out that money as soon as possible for our 2-year pilot. We have people on this panel here today from DHCD and HOC who are going to give a lot more information about these. But to see the two operating down payment assistance programs together, you can see we've provided more than 100 loans in FY23 already, and that the average household income was about $85,000. To see where that money is going, this is again a combined chart from both of our down payment programs. You'll see Germantown by far seems to be the most popular area, followed by Silver Spring and Gaithersburg. And then the final stage of our programs is to maintain safe and healthy housing. We have code enforcement, COC, energy upgrades, and design for life, which I know were also mentioned in that last panel. On the code enforcement, we work with housing codes, solid waste, and weeds to maintain a viable, livable community and enforce those requirements. We have the COC, which I think is also scheduled for another longer conversation, but just wanted to mention them that it is a training for both boards and communities to assist homeowners to understand the rules of a homeownership association and also a condominium regime, what their requirements and rights are under those. We have an energy upgrade program that was initiated in 2018. It was funded by the Merger Fund, which were the combination of multiple major utilities that started at $2.8 million and was aimed for households at 68% AMI and below to replace appliances that are 10 years old or older. As you can see, it's been in existence since 2018. We have served over 250 households. This program in particular kind of took a hit during the pandemic. Obviously requires people to come into your home, and many people did not like that. There was also issues with supply chain, especially with regards to computer chips and a lot of the appliance upgrades that this program would supply. So it did take a dip in 2022, but we're on track to likely use up the remaining funds this year because we're spending about an average of a little under $9,000 per home. And then we also have the Design for Life, which Habitat and Rebuilding Together were on the last panel and discussed for $300,000 total for accessibility, livability, or visitability upgrades for occupants who are 65 or older or physically handicapped. And with that, I can accept questions, or we can ask questions.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it. I think there are probably several questions, but we're going to wait until the end just to be efficient with time. So now we're going to go to Housing Opportunities Commission. Ms. Andrews, welcome. And I know you have your colleague, Ms. Hines, here as well. Thanks for joining us, and we will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am Chelsea Andrews, Executive Director of the Housing Opportunities Commission of Montgomery County. I'm joined with my colleague, Jennifer Hines Washington, Assistant Director of Bond Management. We look forward to sharing with you information on how HOC contributes to supporting and encouraging first-time home ownership in our county. We're pleased to join in this important topic of home ownership, which has a clear, bright line to wealth building and family stabilization. As shared in our next slide. As shared in our previous presentations before this committee, HOC is a multifaceted agency that has the benefit of being both the public housing authority as well as the housing finance agency for the county. The work that we do around home ownership falls within both of our public housing components as well as our housing finance agency components, and we will share those details with you in this presentation. Next slide. I will turn it over to Ms. Washington to share more insight on our single family program.
Good afternoon, council members. For the record, my name is Jennifer Hines Washington, Assistant Director of Mortgage Finance. Purchasing a home is one of the best ways to invest in one's wealth. However, it is also one of the largest financial transactions that most people will make. The Housing Opportunities Commission is committed to making home ownership in Montgomery County affordable by offering qualified buyers home mortgage loans and also down payment closing cost assistance loans. This is done through the Single Family Mortgage Purchase Program. The NPP was established in 1979, and through it, the Commission has financed over 12,000 mortgages for first-time home buyers. The program's First Trust mortgage products include 30-year fixed-rate FHA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac financing, allowing a loan for up to 97% of the home's value. Income and sales price limits do apply for the program. To close the gap in financing, borrowers may also benefit from our down payment assistance options. The HOC Purchase Assistance Secondary Loan provides a 5-year deferred loan equal to 3% of the sales price at 0% interest. So once the borrower stays in the home for 5 years, this loan is forgiven. Our average loan amount is approximately $7,000 for this program. As you heard previously, we also administer two or maybe we didn't talk about that, but we manage or we administer the revolving closing cost assistance program. This program was originally funded by HIF, but it's now revolving. Home buyers that are employed in Montgomery County with a secondary mortgage are able to get a secondary mortgage equal to 5% of the sales price, or up to $10,000. This loan carries a 10-year term at an interest rate of 5%. This loan must be used with the HOC First Mortgage product and can be combined with the HOC Purchase Assistance Loan. The average loan amount is approximately $7,800, and to date, the program has issued almost 1,000 loans. The Montgomery County Home Ownership Assistance Fund offers a 10-year deferred loan equal to up to 40% of the household's qualifying income for a maximum of $25,000. This loan, again, must be used with the HOC First Mortgage product and is forgiven after the borrower has resided in the home for 10 years. If the home is sold during the first 10 years, then only a pro rata portion of the loan is due. The average loan within this fiscal year is approximately $24,000, and the program has issued almost 300 loans since its inception. Next page. Demand for home mortgage loans have decreased within the program since FY 2020. This is due mostly to the pandemic, the amount of available affordable homes, and the high interest rate environment, as you can see a drop in activity between FY 20 and FY 2022. Our program typically generates on average 130 to 150 loans per year based upon selling approximately $33 million in tax-exempt mortgage revenue bonds annually. The program desires to reach more first-time home buyers, but is limited in its reach due to state volume cap constraints. As of FY 2022, the average loan amount for the program was $267,000 for a household size of 3, with an average household income of $76,100, or approximately 59% of the 2022 area median income. Page 6. And finally, you can see our racial composition of our program relative to Montgomery County's population. The majority of our participants are African American and Hispanic, and we are very proud of our ability to assist these individuals and families become home buyers.
Thank you, Jennifer. So what Jennifer just shared with you is information related to the services we provide to any resident that's interested in moving to Montgomery County. The loans, the down payment assistance are open to anyone who is interested. We are now going to share with you information that is tailored to HOC residents and customers. Next slide. So in HOC, we provide financial literacy and home ownership education through multiple divisions. We have our resident services division that provides one-on-one counseling as well as workshops with larger groups. This is offered to anyone who is in our program and on our waiting list. So every time I'm here, I want to reemphasize that for residents who are on our waiting list, you can take advantage of all of the financial literacy courses that we have available. You could do so by going to our website at www.hocmc.org. And so the purpose of the financial literacy work is to really make sure that our residents and our clients are prepared for home ownership at some point, addressing their credit scores, enhancing their ability to maintain and or obtain home ownership, We also have the support from our HOC single family office, which offers home ownership workshops as well, a myriad of resources from budget management to how to complete the mortgage application process, the role of realtors. So ongoing resources provided in both of these divisions to help support our clients and individuals on our waiting list. Next slide. We also benefit from being the agency that is able to administer the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. This is a program through HUD that allows us to provide ongoing resources to individuals in this program. It's a 5-year program that is tailored to assist families in achieving higher wealth in their families. This allows individuals who are in our program to take any additional income that they have acquired over the course of that time, and those funds go into an escrow account that can be utilized for home ownership purchases and or other investments that that family needs moving forward. So it goes into an interest-bearing escrow account. During the course of that time, we're providing them with ongoing support, employment assistance, financial and home ownership education, career training, etc. Next slide. We also offer the HOC-HOP Housing Choice Voucher Program that is also a pathway to home ownership. It allows for our voucher participants to leverage their voucher to become a home owner. And so you have to complete the FSS program, or at least have completed 2 years of that program. If you're interested in home ownership, you can leverage your voucher to pay your mortgage. And of course, this is something that we're really trying to encourage our voucher holders to take full advantage of. We also work in partnership with the county with regards to the MPDU program. Our residents do have an opportunity to purchase these homes when they are available. We let them know about these opportunities, and they have an opportunity to work directly with the developer in making those purchases, and we support them in that regard. Next slide. And we open to questions and transition to our colleagues.
Appreciate the sleight of hand. Next slide. Thank you. Conclusion. Really appreciate that. Thank you for the presentation. Speaks to the volume of all of the work that HOC is doing in a lot of different areas, which really appreciate. Now we're pleased to turn it over. We have representation from the state because we partner as well. There you are. From the State Department of Housing and Community Development, and partner on a number of affordable housing programs, including our rental housing programs as part of capital stacks to make affordable housing projects work, but also as a partner to help us with first-time home buyer, among other areas. So we'll turn it over to you, and thanks for joining us.
That's right. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Maddie Siulu. I'm the Director of Homeownership Programs, Single Family in Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. Thank you so much. I appreciate this invitation, Mr. Chair, council members. The single family area in DHCD, in Department of Housing, covers the flagship program, Maryland Mortgage Program, as well as the Homeowner Assistance Fund program that you may be aware that Treasury has allocated $250 million to the state of Maryland through Maryland Department of Housing to assist with saving borrowers from in the state of Maryland from losing their homes, from imminent displacement. I will focus on the Maryland Mortgage Program today. I'm open to provide details or answer questions about the Homeowner Assistance Fund as well. That's a topic that's discussed very, very often. But in a nutshell, the Maryland Mortgage Program, I just want to give you an overview how this works. It works very similar to a mortgage product, a mortgage loan that you can see very often in the private market. Our loan is a 30-year fixed rate home loan to eligible home buyers purchasing in Maryland. We offer competitive interest rates. based on the funding we obtain from the state, from the governor's office, the General Assembly, as well as funding that we managed to raise through the secondary market, through MBS and TBA. We offer, therefore, stability, flexibility, and a range of down payment assistance options for down payment for closing costs as well. I have a diagram later on that shows a wide array of options that we offer to our borrowers. Needless to say, we started like 30 years ago with one product, down payment product, and now we have about 8 or 9 options with a lot of flexibility as well. Our loans are insured by FHA, VA, USDA as government loans, and conventional loans as well, which means loans insured by the GSEs, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. We work with an approved network of 100 plus lenders statewide. That means over 3,000 branches throughout the state. And very importantly, MMP loans are serviced by our master servicer, U.S. Bank, which means certain limitations in how these loans are built, but are built in line with the private market as well. That's an important factor when we assess any new products that we're trying to partnership on. More than 98% of the MMP borrowers are first-time home buyers. That is the mission of MMP, assisting minorities, assisting low to medium income borrowers, and first-time home buyers as well. We allow repeat buyers also in the program too, but the vast majority is first-time home buyers. So I was mentioning earlier, we've got a lot of down payment assistance products, and starting with with very competitive interest rates. So the programs with very competitive interest rates are called the direct programs. They do not offer down payment assistance, but they offer the lowest rate throughout the matrix. And also the interest rate changes as the programs add down payment assistance. So down payment assistance ranges from $6,000 per loan, plus it can the $6,000 can add partner match, which can go up to $8,500 in assistance, all the way to 6% of in down payment, which could go all the way to $20,000 in assistance. They are in the form of a loan, also 30-year loans, deferred rate, no monthly payments. So it's at 0% interest rates, and also the top DPA, down payment assistance product of the 6%, is designed to borrowers with a below 50% AMI income. We also have specialty products which are designed for various categories of buyers, like Maryland Smart Buy, which was the first in the country type of product that assists borrowers with student debt, that provides up to $50,000 in assistance for paying off the student debt. We have the Maryland Home Ability product that assists borrowers with disabilities, and we go up to 80% of AMI. And the Montgomery Homeownership Program, which is provides a down payment assistance of $25,000, or up to 40% of the household income. That's in partnership with Montgomery County, and it's a great partnership. It's a 7th year, so we've been doing this quite successfully for 7 years up to now, and it looks like there are great reasons to continue. I have a few more details about this specific product later on in the presentation. And another ongoing product is the Greenbelt Home Advantage, another direct partnership with the Greenbelt City, and it provides $15,000 in a form of a grant. We're also in very final stages of launching a new program with Montgomery, with the DHCA, with so-called Montgomery Employee Down Payment Assistance Loan Program that will address borrowers with employees of Montgomery County and also of public schools in Montgomery County, MCPS, and is going to provide similar assistance with the Montgomery Homeownership Program of $25,000 in down payment assistance for eligible applicants, and is looking at a household income to assist borrowers with household income below 120 AMI. For example, that's currently $170,000, $760 for a family of 4 in Montgomery County. A quick comparison as to where MMP is. I can say that I know our Maryland Realtors previous panel also discussed about where the Maryland state is in terms of units sold, average price, median price in the calendar 2022 versus the previous years. We see a significant drop in sales in unit sold to almost 42% drop. The biggest issues, of course, is the inventory, and MMP is aligning with, we're seeing the same trend as the market overall. What was, I guess, mentioned before by every panel, the housing inventory shortage, and we can see that the affordable section of it is the one that's affected significantly. It never returned to the pre-2019 levels. So as Maryland has also income and purchase price limits, the pool of affordable housing is even more limited than that. And particularly in Montgomery County, many of the available homes are out of the MMP range. That another comparison that also shows that our home purchase prices under MMP have increased along with the market, but since the incomes have stayed relatively flat, less production was insured in the previous year compared to the previous production. What we are really proud under the Maryland Mortgage Program is that almost 70% of the MMP borrowers have incomes below 80% AMI, and over 91% of MMP borrowers use our down payment assistance. Just a little bit of demographics, a demographic snapshot. In 2022, we have almost 62% of minority borrowers, and this is pretty much of a history of program utilization by minorities. MMP has always exceeded the a threshold of 50% of its program going to minorities. And you see the biggest portion that's covered by the Black and non-Hispanic borrowers, as well as Hispanic borrowers, and this this portion continued to grow over years. And by county, this is just a breakdown as to show that MMP is trying to be spread relatively evenly in the state, rural, suburb, and of course the biggest areas of Baltimore City and Prince George's County. However, we're really proud to say that we have a participation in every single jurisdiction in the state. So every single county and Baltimore City has MMP is represented every location.
Now, just a snapshot on Montgomery County and where what MMP, what level MMP is in Montgomery County, and we did about 200 loans last year in Montgomery County, and as you see, slightly lower than the previous year. However, we managed to keep the same level for Montgomery County, and also thanks to the partnership I mentioned about directly with the DHCA. You see a breakdown, majority are conventional loans, and also minorities and Hispanics over 40%. Just where Montgomery County is among the other states, also at the level of almost $43 million in compared to the other states that, as I said, MMP is present in. That means around 200 households that have been assisted in the last year through the Maryland Mortgage Program, and specifically on the Montgomery homeownership product that I mentioned earlier. We have our collaboration that has been going on for, this is in its 7th year. It increased actually in the first 4 or 5 years. It was at about $1 million, and now is at $1.5 million per fiscal year. That's the allocation that our partners assure for us. However, that gets spent in 6 months. So in order to last for the entire year, we hope to see more than that. It's a $25,000 in down payment assistance, which is well, for Montgomery County, yeah, it's not that much, obviously. Our average loan amount is $336,000 in Montgomery County. Just a few details as by breakdown by city, as Summer had in her presentation as well. Yes, we are seeing the same: Germantown, Silver Spring, Gaithersburg. They are the top producers. In a nutshell, we are constantly looking in more options to increase DPA, to address higher home prices and the limited income or available income in the households. We depend heavily on the state allocation budget, over 90%. The state allocation budget has been slashed significantly this year, so that may have an impact on MMP. We're looking into new products, the ones that we mentioned: the Greenbelt, Home Advantage, the MadPal, and the ongoing discussions with other counties as well. Improved website resources and partner growth. We're continuously growing our pool of approved lenders. We have a lot of new lenders reaching out to us to participate under MMP. New marketing tools as well. This is our social media presence. Just for the record, we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I'm proud that to mention that we do have an excellent team, and that helps us to receiving and exchanging feedback from events with partners. We're working very closely with MMBBA, with Maryland Realtors. We are always looking to new product lines to evolve in line with the market needs. We have very strong relationships with investors, with realtors, with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, of course, FHA, USDA, and VA, private mortgage insurance, housing counselors, and a lot of affiliate memberships with the local realtor associations. And the I guess the weaker part of the weaknesses of the program are echoing probably what the other speakers and the other panels mentioned, the ongoing shortage of affordable housing inventory, and of course the FY 24 budget that, and or at every year that those they can go up or down. It depends on every year allocation. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your partnership and you joining us. We now have Mary Hunter, Director of Housing Counseling from the HIP, Housing Initiative Partnership. For my colleague, I want to make sure that we add to the HI consonant acronyms. We have another one to add, but thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's turn that on. And thank you so much, council members and committee staff, for hosting this important discussion and for inviting HIP, Housing Initiative Partnership, to participate in talking about how our services can advance homeownership equity in the county. My name is Mary Hunter, as I mentioned. I'm Director of Housing Counseling and Services. Next slide. Housing Initiative Partnership is a nonprofit affordable housing developer and HUD-approved housing counseling agency founded in 1988. We moved into Montgomery County in 2009 and opened up offices. We have offices in Germantown and Gaithersburg. We develop, as our mission statement shows, we develop innovative, affordable housing, revitalize neighborhoods, and equip people to achieve their housing and financial goals. Next slide. A little bit about the affordable housing development before I jump in. We have affordable housing, multifamily development, and resident services. We do single-family home rehab and new construction, and we sell those homes to first-time home buyers, low and moderate-income first-time home buyers. And we also do neighborhood revitalization, where we have a home and facade improvement program, health and safety repairs, and weatherization upgrades. That particular program is in partnership with Prince George's County, so occurs mostly in that county. Next slide. And I'm here today to talk about our housing counseling and services. I'll try to keep it lively. I know I'm the last panelist. So we will advance on into the presentation. You can move forward and advance one more slide. So we know increasing homeownership equity requires increasing access to homeownership products and resources. And this is where we come in. HIP provides community outreach and education. And our staff, in terms of community outreach, we're really eager and interested in partnering in community events. We go out in person. We partner with council members at their events. We go to apartment communities. We go to schools. And we just go to where people are to make sure that they know about these great resources that we've heard about today and maybe understand them in language that is a little easier than some of the graphs and charts we've seen today, to make sure people know that there is an entry path into homeownership that they may not have known about. So that's our community outreach. Again, we're eager to partner with you in any events you have. And in terms of homebuyer education, this is what HIP has done for over 30 years. Currently, we have 3 kinds of education for different levels. We have an orientation session, which is just an hour. It's on Zoom. It's easy to access. It's free. And we started this in May of 2022 with 15 people joining, and now we have 60 people. Despite this hot housing market and the difficulty of home buying, we're seeing people that are interested in starting the process. We also have our signature HUD-approved homebuyer education workshop. This is 6 to 8 hours. It's also low bar. It's $30 to take this class, and it's on Zoom, so reduces the barriers of transportation and childcare, so people can join in from the comfort of their own home. We have a lot of real estate professionals that are joining in as guest presenters in our workshop, giving the opportunity for people to ask questions to actual real estate professionals and get answers. And so that Q&A is really important, and those classes empower home buyers to get the best mortgage products, the best interest rate, access to all these down payment and closing cost assistance programs, and they know and teaches them that they can shop around for their own real estate team. Don't have to take someone that their neighbor has recommended. They should shop around. And the third kind of education we provide is through eHome, and it's self-paced education online. And we would just ask to continue a collaboration with the council and with the county to promote these educational resources. Next slide. I'd say the centerpiece of our work is our one-on-one counseling, where we meet individually with community members. We have 4 kinds: rental, pre-purchase, foreclosure, and post-purchase. We've worked a lot with DHCA and in the eviction crisis that we've encountered, doing rental counseling, helping people access ERA. Foreclosure prevention, I'll talk a little bit about that. But the pre-purchase counseling is an opportunity for people who maybe their credit is not there. Maybe they have a 550 credit score, and our counseling staff can meet with them, in the course of a year, 2 years, to create an action plan, take steps, build their credit, so that they can become mortgage ready and get into sustainable home ownership. So that individualized, tailored sessions are really critical for helping people through this really complicated transaction. Okay, next slide. Snapshot of the kind of clients that HIP has served over the past year. We have worked with 413 potential home buyers, so folks who have participated in our classes or in our one-on-one counseling. The majority are African American and Hispanic, 55% African American, 24% Hispanic. And we survey all of our participants quarterly, so we get a lot of data about whether they buy, that they haven't been able to buy, why not, what can we do to address those needs. And like everyone has been saying today, the majority of the purchasers, we've had 66 folks purchase in the last year, and the majority are purchasing in Up County, Gaithersburg, Germantown, Montgomery Village. And a lot of our buyers are buying condos, so there's a real opportunity for education around condo purchases, specifically, we'd like to create a program in collaboration with the council and the county, particularly educating buyers of condos around how to work with their condo board once they buy a condo, how they can engage with the condo board, what exactly to expect with HOA fees, which is becoming a real problem. A lot of people are defaulting on their HOA fees and really needing assistance to cure those defaults. Quickly, the average loan amount, the loan amounts range of the folks who are bought, the 66 who have purchased, who have been through our program, from $158,000 up to $825,000 loans. The average is about $300. Interest rates we've seen ranging 2.875% up to 5.5%, so pretty good. The low interest rates were at the beginning of 2022. The higher interest rates are at the end of 2022. Mostly we're seeing conventional loans, as has been discussed today, which was a surprise to me when I looked at our data, with FHA being the second, but majority are conventional loans. Next slide. I would like to just introduce, we've talked a little bit about, we've heard about the importance of financial capability, financial literacy, financial empowerment. We have a wonderful financial empowerment center that was launched in the city of Gaithersburg in collaboration with the city. It's available to city residents. We are very interested to expand this resource to other areas of the county. It's financial coaching. It was a program that was funded through Bloomberg's Foundation, Centers for Financial Empowerment. And we launched in March of 2022, so recently, and we've already worked with 240 clients. We've had 750 sessions, so that the real key is that repeated and ongoing relationship. So you can see most of our clients have had 2 to 3 sessions, 55% Hispanic, 31% African American. Our staff is all bilingual in English and Spanish, so we work with a lot of Hispanic households. And so far we've had 85 outcomes. We've seen our clients reduce their debt by 10%, increase their credit score by 35%, and increase their savings. So again, we'd love to continue to expand this to other areas of the county. Next slide. Just as important as helping first-time home buyers enter into homeownership is preserving homeownership. And this is the area of foreclosure prevention that we work in with providing that one-on-one assistance. We're seeing Maryland DHCD does a great job of tracking foreclosure activity. On their website, they have quarterly reports. The last one was issued in the fourth quarter of 2022. We're seeing foreclosure rates in the county go up to pre-pandemic level. We know that they were suppressed during the pandemic because of all the protections available. They're on the upswing. So very important to focus on these preservation strategies that exist. Our counselors can help folks get modifications with their lenders. Half, as DHCD panelist was referring to, is up to $60,000 in loans and grants to help homeowners pay off arrears to avoid foreclosure. Complicated to apply for half, so there's a lot of assistance that we've provided with individuals who are trying to submit applications, get their documents together, navigate through portals, etc. Some of whom don't have their own email address, so there are challenges that need to be addressed. Little known program is the homeowner's tax credit. I'm sure you all have heard of this, but we do make sure that our clients who are eligible apply for and get the homeowner's tax credit so that they can have affordable property taxes. New program called the Homeowner Protection Plan was released by Department of Assessment and SDAT and Taxation, and this is up to $7,000 to help homeowners who are facing property tax sales. Just launched, so we're eager to help people access that program. And I'm going to conclude with talking about our Montgomery County Home Sharing Program. Next slide. This is a really wonderful program that is supported by Montgomery County DHHS, and it is a wonderful option to, the goal is to help people age in place. Older adults age in place. We've heard that's what older adults, there's a growing homeownership. Older adults want to age in place. One way to do that is to bring in a room renter. And so DHHS has invested in this program, and HIP is the matchmaker between the room renter and the homeowner. You can see one of our staff at a homeowner's house. We look at the room, we help them advertise it, we vet the renter. We would love help getting the word out to homeowners that there are a lot of benefits to home sharing. So with that, I'll conclude, and I want to thank you for your support of our services, and we look forward to continued partnership.
Thank you so much for everything that you are doing. We really appreciate your partnership. I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Giwando for his questions, and then to Councilmember Funny Gonzalez for hers. And then I will close this out, noting that my watch just alerted me time to stand. So that means that our meeting should be concluding soon.
I appreciate that, and thank you all for all your work. It's important, and a lot is happening. I also will note that it's happening in an equitable way as far as the program targets, but obviously the scale of it is not enough considering the challenges historically that we've faced. So that's something that for me that just stands out in everything that we're talking about here. So I did have just one. I'll ask one technical question, probably of a couple of you. The do you work with Cafe Montgomery? That's because when you were saying our
Financial Empowerment Center?
Yeah, because we have a Financial Empowerment Center at Worksession Montgomery, but so I just want to understand the relationship.
It's different.
It's different program.
Yes, it is. And the difference, that is funded by United Way.
Yes.
And
who I saw on your slide here too, but they fund a lot of people, I guess.
They do. The Financial Empowerment Center in the city of Gaithersburg focuses more on the one-on-one counseling with certified coaches. We don't do the workshops. So I think that is a little bit of the difference. Is the FEC in the work through United Way is more about education workshops, and the FEC through the CFE, another acronym, is a model that's more focused on the coaching model.
Got it. Okay, I appreciate that. And I'm glad you lifted up the home sharing program. One of the things we've talked about on this committee before is just room renting in general, and trying to get a handle on it, because it's happening. But the making sure that kind of care and handling you're doing on quality and matchmaking, that's something that I think a lot could be expanded to many populations, including our senior population. So I'm very curious to dig into that more. Appreciate the work of HOC. You all are doing great work. We know there's always more to do, and I think we've shown in the previous iterations of this committee we want you to do more, so thank you for that. And to our DHCA partners, I'm really interested, Summer, to follow up with you this long-awaited meeting to talk more about where we are with the MPDUs. You know, on the 40, maybe you can answer this just briefly. This will be my last question before I turn to colleagues. The 4,500 that are coming online, that's over how long of a period, and where are they? Do you have a sense of that? That's just what you know is coming based on the development pipeline?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not sure if they'll ever be developed, but it's in some stage of planning.
And when do you when do you really get notified and really kind of get in the mix on that?
So once an application is filed at Park and Planning, we get notice and serve. We have a representative in our office on the DRC, the Development Review Committee, to monitor it through the stages of approval. But once it gets a certified site plan, then usually the developer will come back to us, and they need to come back to us before they get building permit. So
Right,
that's when we
okay.
get
So
to
that's kind of the
formalize it more.
built-in mechanism. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, a lot to go over here. I appreciate my colleagues. I have a meeting on the CIP, which is another acronym, not related to housing, but related to building other county buildings like schools that I'm going to run off to in a moment. But appreciate all your work. Appreciate my colleagues, and thank you for this overview. Thank you.
Councilmember Fana Gonzalez.
Well, I just want to reiterate the question that I had before on the repairing program that we have. How does it work? Is it Montgomery Housing in Community Affairs? Who holds that? If you have a household of a low-income person who needs repairs in the property, is it with them that administers that program? Because that's what I was told, but I would love to learn more about it. The Design for Life, I guess, yeah.
So the Design for Life is for the 65 or older and physically
And
handicapped.
disabled, yes,
Mhm.
yes.
And we partner with Habitat and Rebuilding Together, who were here earlier to discuss that. They actually do the outreach, they do the contract with the homeowner, they provide us with a list that we review to confirm that it meets the requirements, and then they would invoice us. But they're the ones who would actually administer it.
Can I get, via email, how much money do you have in that program?
That's easy. That's $300,000, $150,000 for each vendor.
That's nothing. Especially understanding that the needs are so huge. It's not just the demographic that you just described, 65 and older in the disabled community. We're also thinking of people who want to share their homes, right? Maybe they're not 65, maybe they're 50 or even 40, or young professionals who are single and they have space in their homes and they want to rent it out, but their homes are not in the best condition to do so. How can we expand on that? That's my question. Obviously, you probably don't have the answer, but I would love to have a follow-up on that, maybe in this committee. What?
Yeah, so one of the proposals that several colleagues that we have together is to significantly increase the funding for that program to the tune of over $1 million, perhaps up to $1.5 million. So I guess the follow-up question there is, what's the capacity to fund the current program, number one, if we just added funding to the program with its current limitations? And number two, and I was going to ask a similar question, if we were to dramatically increase the funding, would it make sense to lower or eliminate entirely the age restriction? I understand why that age restriction was there, but would there be, to prioritize accessibility issues perhaps, which would help certain age cohorts and certain people with accessibility challenges, but if we had a lot more money, would it make sense to expand that group, either to lower or eliminate the age restriction?
I think as far as administering, it would not be a problem. I do believe we need to modify the contract as it exists right now and open it up to a wider a product type maybe, and obviously a larger population is what you're talking about, so it would require that kind of step.
Yeah, so if you could think through that and come back to us. I know we've already had some offline conversations about what capacity there might be. There seems to be a very broad interest in the administration and among our partners of expanding this program significantly, and I think the question is how much, when, and how in terms of the contract. So let's follow up on that, but certainly we have a number of colleagues who are interested in significant expansion of that program, and so I wanted to note that. Did you have other questions?
Everything was great. Thank you so much for being here.
I have a few more questions before we close out, noting my please stand up alert on my phone, which is true for all of us, so for everybody's wellness. The first question relates to the first-time home buyer programs that we have. I just want to note, first of all, the budget that came before us last year had $1 million taken out of the first-time homebuyer program. The council did not want to do that because we noted that the existing resources were already expended 6 months into the year, and so we added $1 million and allowed for the program that was intended to go towards public employees to be worked on, as we didn't reduce the level of effort for the other program that's already oversubscribed. So I just want to note, I'm very glad that we did that, and I appreciate the fact that you moved forward with Fidelity and that program is working. I believe that we had anticipated that it would take some time for that program to get up and running and didn't want to wait while we had another group of folks that were waiting on a waiting list for a program that was underfunded. And so I think that is positive. I look forward to seeing the benefit. My first question on the employee program is whether or not those purchases have to be in Montgomery County.
Yes, they do.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I assumed that, but I just wanted to make sure of that. It wasn't noted, but that is good, and that was the whole goal there. So I think that's positive. You noted 6 months that those resources get expended. That's the number we had last year. It seems to be consistent this year. And so there's also interest in doubling the funding for that program to meet the obvious need each year. You don't foresee any issues or concerns with being able to meet that need if we doubled the program in order to allow for funding for the first-time home buyer program?
Yeah, I don't foresee a problem with that.
Okay, great. So we'll follow up with those programs and processes, but I will note and appreciate the conversations among staff on how to best utilize resources has been really helpful, and that's part of why we are moving forward and interested in pursuing those two options. We need some time to refine it, and so let's have those conversations offline, also work with colleagues to make sure that we continue to have the support that I believe that we have, but I just wanted to note that here. I had a question about the Maryland Smart Buy program. I didn't know about this program, I will say, until we started getting into this conversation, and I spent a lot of time, this kind of mixes my two worlds, in the college debt issues and my previous life, both advocacy and work life, and in housing. And so it's a really exciting program. It seems to be a pretty incredible deal. So I'm just wondering, where are the resources coming from that? Is it a pot of money that has to be expended, or does it, as the applications come in, the money is requested?
No, it's been operating for 5 years now, really successfully. Yeah, it's a pot of money we get allocated from the state budget under capital budget, $6 million per fiscal year. We're looking at $7 million this year for 2023. And it's really successful. It's as I said, it was the first of its kind in the country, and it's being replicated by a few other states as well. So
is it
those-
oversubscribed? Are there more people who apply than resources that are available?
It depends. So over the operation of 5 years, yeah, there were some years when it was oversubscribed. Currently not, is maintained at the current level of allocation that we have. So it's pretty much under control. If needed, we have more. We can use additional funds to put toward it as well.
And how do people find out about it?
Oh, we just go out, we do a lot of marketing and outreach through starting with all our media, social media channels, through our website, outreach events, going out to where the borrowers are, going out meeting with, in all counties we participate to all the, or most of the events possible as well, so it's
And just so I'm
everywhere,
understanding, you have the
everywhere.
standard state first-time home buyer home loan that you're eligible for. That's 97% finance, a 3%
Yes.
loan.
Yep.
And then on top of that, up to $50,000 of loan forgiveness for your college loans.
Yes, that's right. Condition for that
Which
is
has to be no more than 15% of the home purchase, if I'm not
no.
mistaken, or
No, not anymore.
No,
That
oh,
used
that
to
was-
be in one of the first version of the program. So this is called Smart by 3. So there were a few iterations of it along the years. But
unlike in movies, the sequels are
Yes,
better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is an incredible program. I think we need to do a better job of advertising it.
Okay.
We saw the numbers in a previous chart that showed the difference of purchasing power for those who have college debt. I think it was 18% difference, 18% lower from a previous conversation. So the idea that this $7 million is available for those same individuals to be able to wipe out their loan and basically repackage their debt into a much healthier version of debt. Their college debt was worth a lot to their life expected earnings at the time when they took it on. But it doesn't go up in value. The education level that they got stays the same as that debt continues to build. A home is different because the value of the home goes up. So the debt in a home is much better and healthier debt to wealth accumulation. So I'd love to think through how we can better partner with you and make sure that we are, singing off the same song sheet here and making sure that more Montgomery County residents know about that program. I'd love for you to be oversubscribed and us to be having a conversation of more money, because I bet that there's more than 7 million people who need $50,000 of debt forgiveness who would like to buy a home and who aren't. And so, not a conversation necessarily for today, but would like to think of ways that we could partner, and if there are ways that the county can leverage the state program to make it more attractive, to provide an extra layer of incentive perhaps to really move it forward, or if we just did some of the outreach work on your behalf, working with some of our great partners like HIP and others. I really think that is just an incredible opportunity that is totally different. I mean, all these other programs are great, but they're doing different versions of a similar thing. That's one program that is doing something completely different that is desperately needed. In fact, previous colleagues had talked about how we can do certain types of loan forgiveness for Montgomery County residents. There's a program that already exists at the state that I would love to just piggyback off of.
And that's forgiven over 5 years.
Over 5 years, 20% a year
Every
prorated.
year.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just an amazing opportunity, and perhaps HOC as they do their work can utilize this as a potential tool as well, since I'm sure many of their residents also have the added issue of college debt, and in terms of the housing purchasing that they can afford. So if nothing else, hopefully this was I think you said that you see yourself as a matchmaker earlier. Hopefully we could be a matchmaker here from this dais and provide information. I'll just close on two last things. One, the bond cap was raised. I've raised this issue directly with Secretary Day and my concern about not raising the debt cap and how much more we could do just by doing that, which doesn't cost us much in terms of funding, zero in terms of political capital, very limited, but could make a big difference. I just wanted to note that. And then I did want to note, and it was highlighted here, how important the MPDU program is. And we hear a lot about how the MPDU program doesn't do enough, it doesn't help enough, it's at income levels that are higher than those who need it the most. And today's presentation demonstrated just how valuable and cost-effective a tool this is. And certainly if it was the only tool that we had in our toolkit, it would be insufficient, just like any other tool that we've talked about today. But the MPDU program is essential as a baseline, both in the home purchasing and in the rental aspect of what we do in Montgomery County. And basically out of thin air, we're creating thousands and thousands of affordable units. And then those units can be bought down even further from a price point that would be unimaginable at market rates. But at 70% AMI, they are available to be accessed by nonprofits, by HOC, by the county, et cetera, to buy them down. So I didn't want to lose an opportunity. I get really frustrated when we're not talking positively about just how successful that program has been. It's the most successful inclusionary zoning program in the history of the country. We started it, we invented it, and we have built upon it. There were some challenges with it that were improved upon in recent years, and I just do not want to walk away from this conversation without taking a moment to just talk about how important and successful that program has been. We have challenges in Montgomery County on affordable housing, in the rental space and in the homeowner and owner-occupied space. There's no doubt about that. But we're also doing a lot of really important things, more than many other jurisdictions are doing. And so I hope that we can talk about both. I hope today was an opportunity where we could discuss both, and I'm hopeful that we can use this as a launching point to build the programs that we have, to improve the programs that we have, and to add new programs where the gaps exist. So with that, I appreciate everybody joining us today and look forward to continuing this work together. So thank you very much.